from Decodable Readers Australia. I'm excited because we've got a mini-series called Celebrating Science of Reading Influencers. There are so many amazing people doing work here in Australia and globally to spread the word of the science of teaching reading. And these people are really bridging that gap for our educators, from that research to quality instruction and practice in our classrooms. So we've decided to celebrate them and connect our community with them, because who wouldn't want to be on this journey with them? So sit back and enjoy. Each week we've got a different influencer that we're going to showcase and connect you with. Today we celebrate Tina from Reading Teachers Australia. I'm so excited today to introduce Tina. Tina has been really an exemplar in the reading science world for me personally. She's up to date with the reading science knowledge, and she shares information that's just right on point. So I really wanted to celebrate Tina's work today, get to know her and connect our community with her. So thank you for joining us today, Tina.
Oh, that's my pleasure. Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey, and how you've come to where you are now?
Well, this is exciting. I haven't actually done this on film before. So I actually started as a teacher's aide in California, believe it or not. I lived in San Francisco, had a lot of diversity in the classroom, and I started that way, wanting to help kids who are struggling. And then I did my teaching credential and my master's in teaching in California. And there was a big emphasis on diversity and on helping struggling readers. And I just had a fantastic professor. His name was Professor Suresh Apavu, and he was Indian. And he really taught me about equity and what it means, and just had a huge impact. It actually transformed my thinking about teaching and what I should be doing, and changed my direction. At the time, Lucy Colkins was the big name in early reading. I was in a primary school I started teaching in California, always in primary. And she was a goddess. She was a queen of reading instruction there. But I always felt that the really lowest students were being marginalized even then. And I started to question things then. And I started up a little homework business, really, an after school business, where I was helping those kids catch up after school. So that was a big influence to me, just being in San Francisco, and the diversity and the attitude towards diversity was very inclusive. So that was that. And I came back to Australia and taught French in a big private school in the country, in rural New South Wales, I should say, on the border. And again, I gravitated towards struggling readers, and I taught French, and everything was streamed. And so I asked to have the lowest classes. I learned a multisensory approach. I really wanted those kids to be able to access the learning, and it had fantastic results. And I had students who really were not doing well in English at school, but suddenly started to understand French, which is crazy. My kids, I have two daughters, and they went through a phonics program in their school, which was very unusual at the time. And so that really inspired me as well. Anyway, so then I taught in that school, and I had there was a speech language therapist there who was fantastic. Her name was Lynn Maxwell, amazing woman. She introduced me to Spelled. Mm-hmm. So I have to thank her. And then when I came back to Melbourne, and I got a scholarship to do a PhD. And my supervisor is now the Dean of Education, and he really had a respect for, well, he still does, a really huge respect for research. And he really, he lives his beliefs. And I respect him for that. He's been really supportive of me, even though a number of teachers might not agree with me in the faculty. He's been incredibly supportive. And so there are lots of exciting things happening at DFIN.
What I love most about what you do, and we'll talk about Reading Teachers Australia shortly, but what I guess I valued most when I came across your work is that you are an educator that is just continually on the journey and building. There's no end point because the research is so large, but you're really knowledgeable as you're on your journey. But what you share is the pieces of the puzzle. And we know that there's validity between every piece that you share. I know that when I go to Reading Teachers Australia, every single post, every single piece of information that you share is like just finding gold, because we can get lost in a rabbit warren of research. And sometimes the research, it takes so long to get through and understand, but B, once you've got an understanding, how is that going to look practically in a classroom? But what I find that you do really well and has really influenced my practice is you share those little pieces of gold. You're that bridge between the research and practice, and you find things out there and you share them with us. So when I go to Reading Teachers Australia, I just know automatically that I'm going to go through the posts and just find those pieces of gold. So can you tell us a little bit about Reading Teachers Australia?
Thank you. That's such a compliment, and what I have been hoping for. But I'm always just hoping that that's the result. I started Reading Teachers Australia because here I was doing this PhD and coming across all this fabulous information, and I just felt like it was so silly to be lost in that vacuum of my research when I could be actually helping teachers. So I had been studying teacher praxis, which is really your moral motivation for helping students. And in my mind, all teachers have a strong sense of praxis. And I think that's why it's so hard to change practices, because we learn certain practices, we attach those practices to our praxis. We attach them to that moral compulsion to help students. And separating that becomes very difficult because we feel sure that that is going to help them. So I knew that it was going to be very difficult for some teachers to hear this research and then take it on. And I needed to show them that it is a very large body of evidence, and it's not a new fad. And I think teachers are sick of fads.
Yes.
We're sick to death of having another program pushed on us or another thing that we have to do. So I was trying to show that this isn't a fad and that research is ongoing. And yes, nothing is perfect, but that doesn't mean that you separate, for instance, phonics from whole language or balanced literacy. That if we make those distinctions so strong, then we can't see what might happen if knowledge was brought together. I'm not saying, I want to see research-based, evidence-based practices. And I think that there are so many balanced literacy teachers out there with fabulous knowledge, but they just don't have that extra piece of knowledge about the current research so that they would see the difference between that early reading and skilled reading. And to me, that's where I feel like that's the challenge that I have taken on, to say early reading is enabled by, we know, language comprehension and decoding. We know that it's enabled by those two things. And then there's morphology and etymology and all those wonderful things that you can add on. But until children have the code and have the language to have those two pieces to begin their early reading journey, then they won't move on, and they can't move on to all those, the balanced literacy idea of comprehension. If we just understood that reading comprehension is the product of language comprehension and decoding, I think a lot of teachers would go, oh, I didn't realize that. I thought the phonics people didn't believe in comprehension. Of course we believe in comprehension, but we're not phonics people. We are teachers. Yes. We're teachers who really want to help students access reading.
That's right.
So anyway, that's why I started Reading Teachers. I wanted to give up-to-date knowledge, because research is always in a state of flux. It's only when we get to the point that we're at now, we have 40 years of research that has shown us how reading occurs. So I just don't know how any teacher could push that aside and say, no, I was taught that they look at the pictures, or they need to use cues. Wouldn't you be curious? So I think that curiosity is really it can have a huge impact on your practice if you keep open and have that curiosity. There's a lot to learn out there, and it's not fixed. So Reading Teachers Australia, the Facebook group, is where I just share everything. I don't make any money out of Reading Teachers Australia. I think I've sold like a few mugs, but I did that at a loss. So that's I'm no businesswoman, let me tell you. But I also created a website because I started thinking, gee, it would be great for people to be able to see a website where a lot of this information's in one place. I am trying to keep it updated constantly, but if you're writing a paper or something, you can go to the website and just go, I need to know about this topic, and you should be able to find it. And there's also an extensive bibliography, a reference list, I should say, at the very end of the website. And that's basically my thesis references right there for everybody to have a look at, because I think it's fabulous to have those papers and to understand where what I'm saying is coming from.
Yes.
So it's there, it's all there for anyone to look at.
That's wonderful. What we'll do, we'll put the website up for our viewers. We'll also have the Facebook link as well, so they can join on the journey as well. And we just know that the information that's being shared is valid, it's knowledgeable, and yeah, you're putting those pieces of the puzzle together for us. We know we can spend endless hours on socials, but my go-to when I do jump on is Reading Teachers Australia, because I know that there are all those little pieces of gold when I log on. So it is definitely one of my go-tos, and the website as well. I want to thank you for your time. I know it's precious, especially if you're doing your PhD at the moment as well. You sound like a very busy lady, but we really appreciate the influence that you're having in the reading science world, and we're excited to connect our community with what you share. And I know personally I'll just keep continuing my journey with Reading Teachers Australia as well. So thank you so much, Tina, for your time.
Thanks so much. I just wanted to add that I also started this for people who are starting out on the journey. Thanks a million for your time, Camilla.
You're welcome. Thank you.